So tell me about GMOs.
Good question. So here's a thing a lot of people are talking about because it's in pop culture and it's on labels and it's in headlines at grocery stores. GMO stands for genetically modified organism. And what they're actually talking about is basically two big products that DuPont or Monsanto or the merger of Bayer and Monsanto are really involved in. And this is giant conventional farming. So corn seed and wheat seed or grain seed. And that is seed that has been put into a scientific laboratory that scientists have goofed around with to make it so that when they put that seed in the ground, they can spray Roundup, essentially poison, over top of the entire field, and that seed is resistant to that poison. So that poison is going to kill everything that's out there in that field so that the farmer doesn't have to weed it except for that seed that's in the ground. And that seed then is going to grow up and be corn or be wheat or be whatever it's going to be. Now, there's all kinds of thinking on this. One is we've never tested it on human consumption over any length of any period at all, so we really have no idea what that's going to do to a human being. The second is if that thing that we've created is resistant to poison and we have to then poison the whole field so that the farmer doesn't have to pick the weeds, etc., that can't be good. Just saying it out loud doesn't sound right. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to consume all that. Like people are just like, I don't really know. And so I'm not going to give you an opinion either way on whether it's good or it's bad. It increases yield, it increases production, it makes it so that one guy can farm 10,000 acres mechanically with a giant machine and we can have a pile of corn from here to heaven. You can tell by the inflection of my voice where my opinion lies. I'm not even going to give you my opinion. What I'm going to talk about is the public's understanding of GMOs. Because the question that I get is, well, is your vegetables GMO? And the answer, GMO free. And the answer is, well, yes. But so is every other vegetable on the shelf of every box store around the country. And so, you know, nature has a process of genetically modifying herself as she goes through year to year to year to year. So as seeds grow in one place and then pass down the dominant genetic disposition to survive weather, to survive pests, to grow during different seasons, that actual plant and food will change from year to year as it goes to become better adapted to its environment. That's a great thing. Without that, we have disease-ridden everything. So they become resilient naturally. It's still genetic modification that they're doing on their own, the tomato plant or the whatever we're talking about. What people are afraid of, or what we've advertised against, is the genetic modification of a scientist with a white lab coat in a building. That's what people are afraid of. And so when they say, is it genetically modified? My answer is no, because it's not. What you're asking is did a scientist mess with this? And the answer to that is not the way that you think. And so no, it's not genetically modified. It's going in that direction where salmon are becoming genetically modified by scientists, the scary GMO thing. Some more food is becoming genetically modified, tomato plants or cucumber plants or whatever, so that they can be planted. Really, the bottom line is this, is that my feeling on the whole thing is that we have liberties. If you're going to genetically modify something, corn, wheat, whatever, as a giant conglomerate of the government and billion-dollar industry, we have a right to know if this product is genetically modified and then decide from there. It's on a label, I can see that it is, or I can see that it isn't, but I can make my decision accordingly. We're not yet at the point where people really think we are, which is that all the food that we're staring at in a produce section of a store is genetically modified in that way. And so I tell people, no, it's not genetically modified, and that's what they want to hear to satiate or to ease the tension of, is this a GMO product? No, it's not, and you're safe to eat it. And I would never, if veggies ever got genetically modified in that way, I wouldn't carry those ones. We wouldn't sell those ones. We would make sure that everything that we do is open pollinated, is really kind of the way of saying it, which is just that it's just naturally progressing through the seasons, and the seed is changing according to what nature has intended. But that's kind of the mix-up and kind of some of the things that we get stuck on. And I'm definitely glad that we're having the conversation. But anytime that I'm asked about it, this is kind of how I explain it out, so that we know the difference between what we see on a label that says GMO free, or some of those kind of things. But really, what they're saying is not anything significant in terms of where that product came from. Now, when you're talking about middle of the aisle stuff at the grocery store, cereals, pastas, things like that are made in mostly corn based, that then has a significant ramification. So when that says GMO, now you're really, you're not just talking about a piece of produce, you're talking about a processed food. Even if it's just a noodle that's been taken from corn or wheat to noodle, that now, if you're eating that conventional corn or that conventional wheat that's been genetically modified for the purpose of Monsanto or Bayer or any of these giant conglomerates that want you and want to have copyright on that seed or on that spray, now you're getting into touchy waters, and you definitely want to know if that product is GMO free. So that's kind of the difference between the two things, and it will constantly change, and we'll constantly have to be aware of what those changes are. But for now, you're pretty much safe to eat every vegetable and fruit on from a GMO side or a GMO perspective that's out there. There's very few things that are like scary genetically modified. So hopefully that clears up some of that.